and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at The Case is Altered by Ben Jonson. It's an early Ben Jonson. The script I think that we have comes from the early 17th century, even though it premiered a few years earlier. It has an interesting textual history, I think, but that doesn't matter to this room, so I didn't do any work to figure out what all was what, so I just sort of left it and went, people like Ben Jonson, people will know this stuff. I'm sure there's something on Wikipedia you can go, just Google it. You want to know that kind of thing, go and we're just here to find out how the play functions, and I don't think there's anything particularly textual to worry about there in terms of the text doing weird things, but of course I could be horribly wrong. By the end of this session everyone just starts shouting at me and I cower in a corner having failed. But to find out whether we're going to get to that general position, we have these wonderful readers to read the text we have. Reading Valentine, Boy, Count and Aurelia is...
Sarah Blake, actor, writer and director based in Germany.
Reading Sebastian, Servants and Rachael is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I will also be Rachael for today.
Yes, reading Antonio, Maximilian and Jaques or Jaques or Jaques is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
Reading Onion and Angelo today is...
Helen Good, historian, currently in Hull.
Reading Juniper and Francisco is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm a college composition teacher, and I'm coming to you from the west coast of the United States.
And reading Martino, Christophero and Bathasar is...
Alan Scott, still confused in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions, and I may also be reading Vincentio, Paulo and Phoenixella, unless I manage mid-stride to hand them over to somebody else. We're a slightly too small a room, technically, for this play, but we're going to have a jolly good try anyway. So, without further ado, let us dive into Act 1, Scene 1. There is the sound of... There's a flourish. After a flourish occurs, Juniper, a cobbler, is discovered. He's sitting at work in his shop, and he's singing. Take it away, Juniper.
You woeful wights, give ear a while, and mark the tenor of my style, which shall such trembling hearts unfold, as seldom hath tofore been told. Such chances are, and doleful news.
Enter Onion in haste.
Fellow Juniper, peace a God's name.
As may attempt your wits to muse.
God so hear, man, a pox on a God for you.
And cause such trickling tears to pass, except your hearts be flint or brass.
Juniper, Juniper.
To hear the news which I shall tell, that in Custella once befell. What? Where didst thou learn to corrupt a man in the midst of a verse, huh?
God slid, man. Service is ready to go up, man. You must slip on your coat and come in. We lack waiters pitifully.
A pitiful hearing, for now must I of a merry cobbler become mourning creature.
Well, you'll come?
Presto. Oh, presto. Go to, a word to the wise, away, fly, vanish. Lie there, the weeds that I disdain to wear.
And exit Onion.
God save you, Master Juniper.
What? Signor Antonio Balladino. Welcome, sweet Ingle.
And how do you, sir?
Faith, you see, put to my shifts here, as poor retainers be oft times. Sir Anthony, here's one of my fellows mightily enamored thee, and in faith, you slave, now you're come, I'll bring you together. It's Peter Onion, the groom of the hall. Do you know him?
No, not yet, I assure you.
Oh, he is one as right of thy humor as may be, a plain, simple rascal, a true dunce. Marry, he hath been a notable villain in his time. He is in love, Sarah, with a wench, and I have preferred thee to him. Thou shalt make him some pretty paradox or some allegory. How does my coat sit? Well?
Aye, very well.
And enter Onion.
God Not so, fellow Juniper, come away.
Art thou there, mad slave? I come with a powder. Sirrah, fellow onion, I must have you peruse this gentleman well and do him good offices of respect and kindness, as instances shall be given.
Nay, good Master Onion, what do you mean, I pray you, sir? You are too respective, in good faith.
I would not you should think so, sir. For though I have no learning, yet I honour a scholar in any ground of the earth. Sir, shall I request your name, sir?
My name is Antonio Balladino.
Balladino! You're not a pageant poet to the city of Milan, sir, are you?
I supply the place, sir, when a worse cannot be had, sir.
I cry you mercy, sir. I love you the better for that, sir. By Jesu, you must pardon me. I knew you not. But I'll pray to be better acquainted with you, sir. I have seen of your works.
I am at your service, good Master Onion. But concerning this maiden that you love, sir, what is she?
Oh, did my fellow Juniper tell you, sir? Mary says she is, as one may say, but a poor man's child indeed. And for mine own part, I am no gentleman born, I must confess. But my mind to me a kingdom is, truly.
Truly a very good saying.
Oh, 'tis somewhat stale, but that's no matter.
Oh, 'tis the better. Such things ever are like bread, which the staler it is, the more wholesome.
'Tis but a hungry comparison in my judgment.
Why, I'll tell you, Master Onion, I do use as much stale stuff, though I say it myself, as any man does in that kind, I am sure. Did you see the pageant I set forth?
No, faith, sir, but there goes a huge report on't.
Why, you shall be one of my mecenases. I'll give you one of the books. Oh, you'll like it admirably.
Nay, that's certain. I'll get my fellow Juniper to read it.
Read it, sir. I'll read it to you.
Oh, tut. Then I shall not choose but like it.
Why, look you, sir, I write so plain and keep that old decorum that you must of necessity like it. Marry, you shall have some now, as for example in plays, that will have every day new tricks and write you nothing but humours. Indeed, this pleases the gentlemen, but the common sort they care not for't. They know not what to make on't. They look for good matter they, and are not edified with such toys.
You are in the right. I'll not give a halfpenny to see 1,000 on 'em. I was at one the last term. But an ever I see a more roguish thing, I am a piece of cheese and no onion. Nothing but kings and princes in it. The fool came not out a jot.
True, sir, they would have me make such plays, but as I tell 'em, and they'll give me £20 a play, I'll not raise my vein.
No, it were a vain thing that you should, sir.
Tut. Give me the penny. I care not for the gentleman I. Let me have a good ground, no matter for the pen. The plot shall carry it.
Indeed, that's right. You are in print already for the best plotter.
Aye, I might as well have been put in for a dumb show, too.
Aye, marry, sir. I marvel you were not. Stand aside, sir, a while.
And we're just going to pause there for a moment because there's quite a lot to unpack going on here. I'm loving the fanning going on here. Just go, oh my God, you wrote the thing. Oh, it's okay. Have you seen my latest? No, I missed it. No, it's okay. I'll give you a copy. I'll read it to you. And all of that stuff. I'm loving, especially as it feels like there's something very pointed going on here about people who write certain kinds of plays, people who are writing specifically civic entertainment of some description. I'm feeling there might be some satire going on here, and I'm sure at some point we'll figure out who's being satired or not, but for a modern audience, nobody cares. So we'll leave that parlor game to one side for the moment. But the general idea of Onion being the ultimate fanboy is really landing nicely for me. I think that's working really nicely, especially coming on from Juniper singing his song and Onion trying to come in and say, "We need some help here." So the relationship between all these characters and how it's all working, I'm not wholly sure about, but I'm enjoying so far. Thoughts from the room about what's going on here, Rachael?
Yeah, I think it's like that awkward thing of like he hasn't seen any of this dude's plays, but he knows his name and he knows that he's well known. And it's one of those types of things. And he's gone back and forth and he's like, "Oh, I'll read it to you." And he's like, "Well, then I can't dislike it, I guess." There could be that that dynamic there.
Yeah. I've heard all about you. I've not seen anything, but I've heard all about you. I know you're famous, or something like that. Yeah. Yes. What are the dynamics to this fanning that's going on? Other thoughts? Helen.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. There's a cobbler who's being employed part-time as a waiter. It's the early modern thing of, in order to make a living, you had to take on many different roles. And the Juniper can read, though. He's literate, whereas Peter Onion definitely isn't. But he also really doesn't care for plays where you've got all these kings and princes and the fool never comes in. Where's Mo Fool?
Yeah,
Fool.
Yeah, where are all the good? Where did all the clowns go? Hey, the good old days when you could get a decent laugh going on. I feel that comedy, tragedy, and history should come on here and to a degree endorse some of this sentiment. Alan.
Yeah, I'm not sure that while he's described as a waiter, I think he's actually being asked to join the mourning train for a funeral, presumably, given the upcoming stage direction. And it was the fact that he didn't want to change into his dark clothes to be part of that ceremonial procession.
Oh, well, this is not fair. He's read ahead.
No, it's the next line that comes up on the page. It just happens to be visible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Not proper research, Helen. Don't worry.
Okay.
I haven't got internet browser windows open in the way that some may have. Keep it nice. Keep it nice. Any other thoughts of the scene so far? Because we have got more scene to come. Okay, so there's a world going on here. There's business. There's possibly some satire. Let's see whether we get more explication going on. At this point, Antonio is said stand aside. We're not sure if he actually exits or if he's just hiding in a corner. At this point, enter an armed sewer, some half dozen in mourning coats following, and pass by with service. Enter Valentine.
Hello, friend. What are you there? Be uncovered. Would you speak with any man here?
I? Or else I must have returned, answer.
Friend, you are somewhat too premonitory. Let's crave your absence, nay, never scorn it. I am a little your better in this place.
I do acknowledge it.
Do you acknowledge it? Nay, then you shall go forth. I'll teach you how you shall acknowledge it in another time. Go, void! I must have the hall purged. No setting up of a rest here. Pack, begone!
I pray you, sir, is not your name Onion?
Your friend, as you may use him, and Master Onion. Say on.
Master Onion with a murrain. Come, put off this lion's hide. Your ears have discovered you. Why, Peter! Do not I know you, Peter?
God, so! Valentine?
Oh, can you take knowledge of me now, sir?
Good Lord, Sarah, how thou art altered with thy travel.
Nothing so much as thou art with thine office. But Sirrah Onion, is the Count Fernese at home?
Aye, bully, he is above, and the Lord Paulo Fernese, his son, and Madame Aurelia, and Madame Phoenixella, his daughters. But, oh, Valentine!
How now, man? How dost thou?
Faith, sad, heavy, as a man of my coat ought to be.
Why, man, thou wert merry enough even now.
True, but thou knowest all creatures here sojourning upon this wretched earth sometimes have a fit of mourning as well as a fit of mirth. O Valentine, mine old lady is dead, man.
Dead?
I'faith.
When died she?
Mary, tomorrow shall be 3 months. She was seen going to heaven, they say, about some 5 weeks agone. How now? Trickling tears, huh?
Faith, thou hast made me weep with this news.
Why, I have done but the part of an onion. You must pardon me.
Bum, bum. Enter the sewer, pass by with service again. The serving men take knowledge of Valentine as they go. Juniper salutes him.
But Valentine, fellow onion, take my dish, I prithee.
And exit onion.
You rogue, Sirrah, tell me how thou dost, sweet Ingle.
Faith, Juniper, the better to see thee thus frolic.
Nay, Slid, I am no changeling, I am Juniper still. I keep the pristinate, huh, you mad hieroglyphic? When shall we swagger?
Hieroglyphic? What meanest thou by that?
Mean? Gotza is not a good word, man. What, stand upon the meaning with your friends? Puh, abscond.
Why, but stay, stay. How long has this sprightly humour haunted thee?
For humor, a foolish natural gift we have in the equinoxial.
Natural? Slid, it may be supernatural, all this.
Valentine, I prithee, ruminate thyself welcome. What fortuna de la guerra?
Oh, how pitifully are these words forced, as though they were pumped out on his belly.
Sir Ingle, I think thou hast seen all the strange countries in Christendom since thou wentst.
I have seen some, Juniper.
You have seen Constantinople?
Aye, that I have.
And Jerusalem and the Indies and Goodwin Sands and the Tower of Babylon and Venice and all?
Aye, all. No marl, and he have a nimble tongue if he practise to vault thus from one side of the world to another.
Oh, it's a most heavenly thing to travel and see countries, especially at sea, and a man have a patent not to be sick.
Oh, seasick jest, and full of the scurvy.
And enter Juniper and... Juniper, he's already on. Antonio, Sebastian, Martino, Vincentio, Bathasar, and Christophero. Lots of people enter.
Valentine, welcome, in faith. How dost, sir?
How do you, good Valentine?
Oh, truth, Valentine, I'm glad to see you.
Welcome, sweet rogue.
Before God, he never looked better in his life.
And how is't, man? What hello, Coraggio?
Never better, gentlemen, i' faith.
Swill, here comes the steward.
Why, how now, fellows? All here and nobody to wait above? Now they are ready to rise? Look up, one or two. Signor Francisco Colonia's man. How does your good master?
And upon that speech by Christophero, exeunt Juniper, Martino, and Vincentio.
In health, sir. He will be here anon.
Is he come home, then?
Aye, sir, he is not past 6 miles hence. He sent me before to learn if Count Fernese were here, and return him word.
Yes, my lord is here, and you may tell your master he shall come very happily to take his leave of Lord Paulo Fernese, who is now instantly to depart with other noble gentlemen upon special service.
I will tell him, sir.
I pray you do. Fellows, make him drink.
Sirs, what service is they are employed in?
Why, against the French. They mean to have a fling at Milan again, they say.
Who leads our forces? Can you tell?
Marry, that is Signor Maximilian. He is above now.
Who? Maximilian of Vicenza?
Aye, he. Do you know him?
Know him? Oh, yes. He's an excellent, brave soldier.
Aye, so they say. But one of the most vainglorious men in Europe.
He is indeed, marry, exceeding valiant.
And that is rare.
What?
Why, to see a vainglorious man valiant.
Well, he is so, I assure you.
And enter Juniper again.
What? No farther yet? Come on, you precious rascal, Sir Valentine. I'll give you a health and faith. For the heavens, you mad capriccio. Hold hook and line.
And they exit. So there's an awful lot of stuff occurring, which is quite amusing, and people sauntering on and off. And every so often, someone goes and mentions the plot. It's like every so often, someone just goes, have you seen? Is Count Farnese at home? And stuff. What's going on with the Farneses? There's all this Farnese stuff that keeps cropping up amidst all this other things. Some of which is just sort of witty stuff that I'm really quite enjoying. Not necessarily with that much purpose, but there's some really the Juniper Valentine sequence I liked very much. And all this stuff with Juniper's use of language. Juniper seems to be something of a post-structuralist in terms of his use of language. I have you seen Constantinople, Jerusalem, the Indies, and Goodwin Sands? I think that's the exoticness of Goodwin Sands. Which is not that far away, as opposed to all the others that are quite exciting.
Yeah, that's a Princess Cruise, isn't it? Goodwin Sands, Tower of Babylon. It's all on the same.
Yeah.
On the same itinerary.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to laugh.
But I don't know how much of any of this is actually structurally relevant to where the play is going. There's a lot of good stuff, and some of it may be important, and some of it's character building, I'm sure. But I don't think anyone's really grabbed hold of what's really going on yet. I don't know if anyone has. Anyone discerned a particularly coherent plot yet? Alan?
Not so much a plot, but I think what we've seen there is a group of young bloods, is the way I'm seeing it, are basically having a bit of banter with each other. Did confuse the hell out of me as I appeared 3 times in 3 different characters within half a page of text.
Mm. Yes, there was. I did try to vaguely explicate that occasionally, but I then gave up. Sarah.
Well, there's a war going on, or there's a war about to start, and there's this dude in charge, this Milan dude, who I don't know if he's going to have a relevance to the plot or not. So that could be part of the plot, or it might not be. I have no idea.
Mm. Yeah, there's something happening off stage which people, I say, every so often mention. And things, he's above Lord Paulo, his son, Madame Aurelia, Madame Phoenixella, and stuff. So there's some other people we haven't met yet, along with all these people we've just met really briefly. Helen.
Yes, I mean this is obviously a big household, a noble household with a recently bereaved head of it, a son and 2 daughters, and a mass of male servants, which always indicates wealth of some sort. And I think it's not so much that we've got a whole load of young bloods, we've got a whole load of servants who all know each other extremely well. And a friend of the family has been away and is coming back, and they're greeting his servant, who is their friend, but they haven't seen him for maybe 3-4 years. And the mourning is because of the death of the lady of the household.
To which Onion has done the part of an onion and made someone cry. Boom, boom.
Yeah, but that's why the servants are in black coats, because it's 3 months tomorrow or something.
Rachael.
I was just gonna say how similar this like opening gambit is compared, I think, to, was it in Humor Out of Breath, where the two guys are competing with who has the bigger fool or something that he knows, that they're going back and forth. It seems like that, like this easy camaraderie and competition, and game playing amongst young men. And it has that sort of like conversational quality, like towards in the writing, and then the same conversational quality and like ensemble piece-ness that I think we get from Marlowe, but obviously much, 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 much less bitter.
You mean Marston, I think.
Yes, that is who I mean. I have no idea what I just said.
I find it quite ironic that there was this bit early on when it felt like I found you an amusing fellow for you to mock, and that doesn't quite go there. It does a bit, but I also like the way that it says some playwrights, they write nothing but humours, and I'm sitting here going, not quite sure what this play, if it isn't just a load of people being interesting characters so far, because I'm not discerning much of the way of a plot. So I'm assuming that's deliberate irony, but maybe I'm wrong. Eric, then Lynn.
Yeah, it feels a bit like sort of, okay, let's put these characters together and see what happens. It is kind of, it has this feel that is very modern, actually. It made me think of like TV series where like the pilot episode, the characters don't really know each other, so we're still waiting for the big event to sort of bring them together.
Lynn.
I'm confused by the fact that Juniper's a tradesman. Would a wealthy household have employed a full-time shoemaker or cobbler? Was that normative? Helen?
Well, in an absolutely massive household, I suppose it is perfectly possible, but I don't think it's likely here. I think what it is that they have a fair number of people who, at need, will come and stand in. So you round up the casuals. I suppose a modern equivalent might be if there's a big shoot on in an estate, everybody gets rounded up to be a beater. I would say I have no personal experience of this, but I've watched an awful lot of things like Downton Abbey.
Let's gather more evidence. I think we've been getting a sense of things, but it's still quite early in the play. I'm sure there's more data to come. I'm going to ask Rachael if you can step in for the next scene and read Paulo. That would be enormously helpful. I don't think it clashes with anyone else. It saves me reading it. So Act 1, Scene 2. Enter Lord Paulo Farnese, his boy following him.
Boy.
My lord?
Sarah, go up to Signor Angelo and pray him, if he can devise some means to leave my father and come speak with me.
I will, my lord.
Well, heaven be all spacious in the event, for I do this against my genius, and yet my thoughts cannot propose a reason why I should fear or faint thus in my hopes, one so much endeared to my love. Some spark it is, kindled within the soul, whose light yet breaks not to the outer sense, that propagates this timorous suspect. His actions never carried any face of change or weakness, and I injure him in being thus cold, conceited of his faith. Oh, here he comes.
And enter Angelo.
How now, sweet lord? What's the matter?
Good faith, his presence makes me half ashamed of my strayed thoughts. Boy, bestow yourself.
And exit boy.
Where's my father, Signor Angelo?
Marry, in the gallery where your lordship left him.
That's well. Then, Angelo, I will be brief, since time forbids the use of circumstance. How well you are received in my affection, let it appear by this one instance only, that now I will deliver to your trust the dearest secrets, treasured in my bosom. Dear Angelo, you are not every man, but one whom my election hath designed as the true proper object of my soul. I urge not this to insinuate my desert, or supply your tried temper with soft phrases. True friendship loathes such oily compliment. From the abundance of that love that flows through all my spirits is my speech enforced.
Before your lordship do proceed too far, let me be bold to intimate thus much, that whatsoe'er your wisdom hath to expose, be it the weightiest and most rich affair that ever was included in your breast, my faith shall poise it. If not...
Oh, no more. Those words have wrapped me with their sweet effects, so freely breathed, and so responsible to that which I endeavored to extract, arguing a happy mixture of our souls.
Why, were there no such sympathies, sweet lord, yet the impressure of those amiable favours I have derived from your unmatched spirit would bind my faith to all observances.
How? Favors, Angelo. Oh, speak not of them. They are mere paintings, and import no merit. Looks my love well? Thereon my hopes are placed. Faith, that is bought with favors, cannot last.
Enter boy.
My lord,
How now?
you are sought for all about the house within. The count your father calls for you.
God, what cross events do meet my purposes? Now will he violently fret and grieve that I am absent? Boy, say I come presently.
Exit boy.
Sweet Angelo, I cannot now insist upon particulars. I must serve the time. The main of all this is, I am in love.
Why starts your lordship?
I thought I heard my father coming hitherward. List, huh?
I hear not anything. 'Twas but your imagination, sure.
No?
No, I assure your lordship.
I would work safely.
Why, has he no knowledge of it then?
Oh, no. No creature yet partakes it but yourself in a third person. And believe me, friend, the world contains not now another spirit to whom I would reveal it. Hark, hark.
Signor Paulo, Lord Fernese.
Pox upon these brazen-throated slaves. What are they, mad, trow?
Alas, blame them not. Their services are clock-like to be set backward and forward at their lord's command. You know my father's wayward, and his humor must not receive a check, for then all objects feed both his grief and his impatience. And those affections in him are like powder, apt to inflame with every little spark and blow up reason. Therefore, Angelo, peace.
Why, this is rare. Is he not in the garden?
I know not, my lord.
See, call him.
He is coming this way. Let's withdraw a little.
And exeunt everyone, sounds of servants off.
Signor Paulo, Lord Fernese, Lord Paulo.
At which point we have a mass entrance, so we're just going to pause there, as it were, as this sort of ongoing rolling scene occurs. So yeah, we're we're digging a little into the Freitas now, as it were. We're starting to get a little bit of sense of the Freitas family. Thoughts in the room about what's going on here? What's going on here? Lynn?
Well, male bonding all over the place. I mean, the first scene was like, men in for more like ordinary levels of society. Hey, asshole, how you doing? I haven't seen your face in 100 years. Like, all this sort of hail fellow, well met stuff. And then we have like upper class men. You're the best. Oh no, you're the best. Oh no, you're the best. Oh, I just love you so much. Like, okay.
Helen.
Yeah, I more or less what Lynn said. I must say that if I had to have a companion on a long journey, it would be Onion rather than Angelo.
They don't treat their they're very dismissive with their servants. It's very efficient. Boy, go and do this. Boy, go and do that. There's no chattage really at all, is there?
Well, not until they need something special.
Exactly.
Really.
Sarah, then Eric.
We're still getting that drip of the plot because Paulo says the main of all this is I am in love, and I thought at that point we were just about to find out the main plot, but then no. Because it's like, oh, my father's coming in. So whoever it is, I assume it's someone he doesn't approve of, the father doesn't approve of. But like, who knows? Because we still haven't got there yet.
Someone's in love. Someone's in love. That might be an important plot point. That might be. It sometimes is in plays. Eric, then Rachael.
Yeah, basically that's what I was going to say. It's like, have we had any other reason why he's avoiding his father? Is that just it, or is it kind of,
or is it just the nature of who his father is? Maybe everyone just wants to avoid his father.
He does sound quite what is it, those affections to him are like powder, apt to inflame with every little spark. So perhaps the father's got quite a hot temper, or is quite explosive.
Rachael.
Yeah, isn't Juniper or Onion in love with somebody too? Isn't and the Countess, if it is the Countess that is the one who's recently just died, maybe that's also folds into it a bit, that he might not like whoever his son is into, and also at the same time he just might not want to hear about love because his wife has just passed.
Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, I was going to ask this before. Is it definitely the Count's wife who's died?
I'm fairly certain it is. I'm fairly certain the Count is the widower.
Okay. It's just she was referred to as the old lady.
Well, we've got a reasonably adult younger generation of the Freitas, so that seems reasonable. Okay. I don't think we're in an upper echelon of the family have died but I could be wrong on this point. We may find out more data later on. Eric.
this feels a bit like the sort of early modern equivalent of that 70s show where you've got like, the teenagers who are still going to school and stuff, but then also like the parents who are sort of trying to make sure their teenagers stay out of trouble. But they're just background characters kind of thing. I don't know. That's how it feels at the moment. Maybe that's just me.
Well, maybe we will gather more information as the scene unfolds. We've had servants calling for Paulo and Angelo, I assume. So yeah, there's the entrance now of the Count Freitas, Maximilian, Aurelia, Phoenixella, Sebastian, Bathasar. There might be some extreme doubling occurring now. So let's see how well this scene goes.
Where should he be, Trow? Did you look in the armoury?
No, my lord.
No? Why there? Oh, who would keep such drones?
Exeunt Sebastian and Bathasar. Enter Martino.
How now? Have you found him?
No, my lord.
No, my lord. Oh, I shall have shortly all my family speak naught but no, my lord. Where is Christophero?
Enter Christophero.
Look how he stands. You sleepy knave.
Exit Martino.
What? Is he not in the garden?
No, my good lord.
Your good lord? Oh, how this smells of fennel. You have been in the garden, it appears. Well, well.
Enter Sebastian and Bathasar again.
We cannot find him, my lord.
He's not in the armory.
He is not. He is nowhere. Is he?
Count Freitas.
Signor?
Preserve your patience, honorable Count.
Patience! A saint would lose his patience to be crossed as I am, with a sort of motley brains. See how like a nest of rocks they stand, gaping at one another.
Enter Onion.
Now, Diligence, what news bring you?
And please, your honour,
Oh, tut, leave pleasing of my honour, Diligence. Double with me, come.
oh, does he find fault with please his honour? Swans, it's become a serving man's speech ever since I belonged to the Blue Order. I know not how it may show now I am in black, but...
What's that you mutter, sir? Will you proceed?
And like your good lordship.
Yet more, God's precious.
What does this like him neither?
What say you, sir knave?
Marry, I say your lordship would best send me to school again to learn how to deliver a message.
What do you take exceptions at me, then?
I take no exception. But by God, so you're humorous.
Go to. You are a rascal. Hold your tongue.
Your lordship's poor servant I.
Tempt not my patience.
Why, I hope I'm no spirit, am I?
My lord, command your steward to correct the slave.
Correct him? Spludge, come you and correct him if you have a mind to it. Correct him? That's a good jest. I' faith, the steward and you both come and correct him.
Nay, see. Away with him. Pull his cloth over his ears.
Cloth! Let me tell you of your cloth. Here's your cloth. Nay, and I mourn a minute longer, I am the rottenest onion that ever spake with a tongue.
And they thrust him out, poor Onion.
What call you your hind, Count Freitas?
His name is Onion, signor.
I thought him some such saucy companion.
Signor Maximilian,
Sweet lord.
let me entreat you, you would not regard any contempt flowing from such a spirit, so rude, so barbarous.
Most noble Count, under your favour.
Why, I'll tell you, signor, he's bandy with me word for word. Nay, more, put me to silence, strike me perfect dumb, and so amaze me, that oft time I know not whether to check or cherish his presumption. Therefore, good signor.
Sweet lord, satisfy yourself. I am not now to learn how to manage my affections. I have observed and know the difference between a base wretch and a true man. I can distinguish them. The property of the wretch is he would hurt and cannot. Of the man, he can hurt and will not.
Go to my merry daughter. Oh, those looks agree well with your habit, do they not?
We're just going to pause before Juniper enters. We can infer that her daughter, or one of her daughters, has smiled at that point. I think we can infer that. I don't know who's smiling precisely, but there has been an action by a female character has occurred. I just thought I'd flag that up because I don't think we've actually had a single line from a single female character yet. The Count's rather fun in his obstreperousness. I mean, there's some really nice bits in there. I love the way he just goes to Onion. Will you stop doing asides? Basically, what asiding are you doing there? Speak louder, please. Well, nobody. It's a simple instruction. Find my son. Can you just do it? No, you're all useless. And then when someone gets a bit snarky about the person who's just had thrown out the room, he then turns on him as well. I mean, it's great. There's no pleasing this guy, is there? Sarah.
Well, I think it's like with Onion. I mean, they're a bit of a double act, aren't they? I mean, he does actually say it's like, well, yeah, he irritates me to death, but actually to the point where I kind of admire him. So it's like I can. So he's basically saying I can criticize him, I can like have him thrown out, but no one else can say anything about him because he's my, we have the thing.
Yeah, it's basically he's just turned to him and said, "You've insulted my servant. How dare you? That's my job."
Yeah.
Helen, then Lynn.
Yes, I mean, I was noticing all the time that Onion is no way afraid of his master. And that the person who really takes offense at the whole thing and doesn't understand the relationship between the two of them is the guest, who says, for heaven's sake, why haven't you had this man beaten? But I mean, Onion is trying to be polite. He's saying, may it please you, sir. And the Count just wants the information. He doesn't want the politeness. And I think Onion must be aware of what the Count is actually saying, but he's choosing not to be.
Lynn.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Although when the Count says he'll bandy with me word for word and put me to silence and strike me perfect done, I'm not sure I buy that. The Count kind of won't shut up, so I'm not sure even Onion can strike him dumb. I'm not sure I believe that.
Eric.
I just enjoyed that whole thing of looking for the sun, where like sort of you can imagine like if this was actually in a theater as opposed to us just reading it now, it would kind of be like, taking a lot of time to sort of bang, like, people opening closets and sort of small drawers for comedy effect and that kind of thing, looking everywhere, even under the bed where there's no actual space under the bed, just like making a mess.
Lifting the carpet. Is he under there? No.
And the Count just sort of going, no, this is not working. I need better servants.
Yes, please, just be better. Could you aim for adequacy? That would be nice. Sarah.
There's also that brilliant bit where they're like, where he's like, have you looked for him in the garden? Has anyone been to the garden? The Christophero turns up. He's like, have you looked in the garden? No. You smell of fennel. You've been in the garden. Just make me laugh so much. Yeah.
That's proper detective work there from the Count. Just going, So yeah, I mean, again, it's all this sort of furious incident is getting in the way of introducing an active plot. There's incident. Helen.
Yes, at some point, I think Onion takes his black coat off. I mean, he talks about having joined the blue coats, which means having become a servant, because the normal livery for a servant would be a blue coat. But he's saying, I can't see the line now, but as I remember it, he's saying something like, well, I joined the blue coats and that was all right. Maybe it's having to put on a black coat that's causing the problem. And I think he maybe takes his black coat off.
That's how I heard it.
Nice. Let us dig a little deeper into the scene. We're rattling through this at quite a pace, it has to be said. That's not a bad thing inherently. I like it when a Ben Jonson moves at pace. It's nothing worse than suddenly going, oh my God, there's another 4 hours of this. No, that's a very pleasant sensation to be having. Enter the not desperately happy Count, who's just had a go at Maximilian. Enter Juniper.
Tut, let me alone. By your favor, this is the gentleman, I think. Sir, you appear to be an honorable gentleman, I understand, and could wish, for mine own part, that things were condensed otherwise than they are. But the world knows a foolish fellow, somewhat proclive and hasty. He did it in a prejudicate humor. Marry, now, upon better computation, he wanes, he melts, his poor eyes are in a cold sweat. Right, noble signor, you have the you can have but compunction. I love the man. Tender your compassion.
Doth any man here understand this fellow?
Oh God, sir, I may say frustra to the comprehension of your intellection.
Before the lord he speaks all riddle, I think. I must have a comment ere I can conceive him.
Why, he sues to have his fellow onion pardoned, and you must grant it, Signor.
Oh, with all my soul, my lord. Is that his motion?
Aye, sir, and we shall retort these kind favors with all alacrity of spirit we can, sir, as may be most expedient, as well for the quality as the cause, till when, in spite of his compliment, I rest a poor cobbler, servant to my honourable lord here, your friend and Juniper.
Exit Juniper.
How, Juniper?
Aye, Signor.
He is a sweet youth. His tongue has a happy turn when he sleeps.
Enter, and this is going to cause perhaps some minor clashes, Paulo, Fenese, Francisco, Colonia, Angelo, and Valentine.
Aye, for then it rests. Oh, sir, you're welcome. Why, God be thanked you are found at last. Signor Colonia, truly you are welcome. I am glad to see you, sir, so well returned.
I gladly thank your honour, yet indeed I'm sorry for such cause of heaviness as has possessed your lordship in my absence.
Oh, Francisco, you knew her what she was.
She was a wise and honourable lady.
Aye, was she not? Well, weep not. She is gone. Passion's dulled eye can make two griefs of one. Whom death marks out, virtue nor blood can save. Princes as beggars, all must beat the grave.
Are your horse ready, Lord Paulo? Aye, Signor, they stay for us at the gate. Well, 'tis good. Ladies, I will take my leave of you. Be your fortunes, as yourselves, fair. Come, let us to horse. Count Fernese, I bear a spirit full of thanks for all your honourable courtesies.
Sir, I could wish the number and value of them more in respect of your deservings. But, Signor Maximilian, I pray you a word in private. I' faith, brother, you are fitted for a general yonder. Beshrew my heart if I had Fortunus's hat here, and I would not wish myself a man and go with you, only to enjoy his presence.
Why do you love him so well, sister?
No, by my troth. But I have such an odd, pretty apprehension of his humour. Methinks that I am e'en tickled with the conceit of it. Oh, he is a fine man.
And methinks another may be as fine as he.
Oh, Angelo, do you think I do urge my comparison against you? No, I am not so ill-bred as to be a depraver of your worthiness. Believe me, if I had not some hope of your abiding with us, I should never desire to go out of black whilst I lived. But learn to speak in the nose, and turn Puritan presently.
I thank you, lady. I know you can flout.
Come, do you take it so? I' faith, you wrong me.
Aye, but madam, thus to disclaim in all the effects of pleasure may make your sadness seem so much affected, and then the proper grace of it is lost.
Indeed, sir, if I did put on this sadness only abroad and in society, and were in private merry and quick-humoured, then might it seem affected and abhorred. But as my looks appear, such is my spirit, drowned up with confluence of grief and melancholy, that like to rivers run through all my veins, quenching the pride and fervour of my blood.
My honourable lord, no more. There is the honour of my blood engaged for your son's safety.
Yes, for anyone confused, the Count and Maximilian wandered off. Everyone sort of changed parts for a bit, and now the Count and Maximilian have sauntered back in again.
Signor, blame me not for tending his security so much. He is mine only son. And that word only hath, with its strong and repercussive sound struck my heart cold and given it a deep wound.
Why, but stay, I beseech you, had your lordship ever any more sons than this?
Why, have not you known it, Maximilian?
Let my sword fail me then.
I had one other, a younger born than this, by twice so many hours as would fill the circle of a year. His name Camillo, whom in that black and fearful night I lost. 'Tis now 19 years agone at least, and yet the memory of it sits as fresh within my brain as 'twere but yesterday. It was the night wherein the great Chaumont, the general of France, surprised Vicenza. Methinks the horror of that clamorous shout his soldiers gave when they attained the wall yet tingles in mine ears. Methinks I see, with what amazed looks, distracted thoughts, and minds confused, we that were citizens confronted one another. Every street was filled with bitter self-tormenting cries, and happy was that fool that first could press the flowery champagne bordering on Verona. Here I, employed about my dear wife's safety, whose soul is now at peace, lost my Camillo, who sure was murdered by the barbarous soldiers, or else I should have heard. My heart is great, sorrow is faint, and passion makes me sweat.
Grieve not, sweet count. Comfort your spirits. You have a son, a noble gentleman. He stands in the face of honor. For his safety, let that be no question. I am master of my fortune, and he shall share with me. Farewell, my honorable lord. Ladies, once more adieu. For yourself, madame, you are a most rare creature. I tell you so. Be not proud of it. I love you. Come, Lord Paulo, to horse.
And
Adieu.
Paulo says adieu, good Signor Francisco. Farewell, sisters. And we're going to pause there. Lost son alert, people. Where's the lost son klaxon when I need it? Yeah, there's that's a plot line I'm sure will be left completely unresolved and will have no immediate effect. It's just for colour. That's all it is. It's just to make the thing seem more interesting. So yeah, there's someone just declared love at the exiting there. Not quite sure what's going on there. So yeah, some things occurring there. Thoughts on the room? A little confusing. I'm sure even more confusing for anyone watching this video because we're all dancing around like nine pins at the moment. Rachael,
Is this like the bed trick card? Like when we mark it off on the bingo? Like how is this just a drama thing, or were people really losing their children all the time at this, like misplacing them?
well, you know, records weren't very good in those days. In a sense, yes. Going out and recreating yourself as someone completely different is entirely possible. I don't know how many lost children there really were, though. I think just dramatic convention will be, or literary convention, actually, for that matter. Lynn.
Yeah, I'm really confused. So, Angelo is the Count's son. Is that right?
No.
No.
Count's son's best friend.
Yeah. The son is Paulo.
Okay. So Paulo and Aurelia are brother and sister?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. These are important questions because it is not always very
that
clear.
Helps. So,
Phoenixella, who I read, is also a daughter of. There are two sisters, one son, and another son somewhere else, probably.
And Paulo, the Count's son, is in love with someone who we haven't met yet, and it's someone we can assume that his father would not approve of. Okay, but the missing son, the early modern bingo or the sort of fairy tale trope of the long lost son is a younger son, which is a little weird because if it were an older son, then his reappearance would solve problems. Probably it's like, if Paulo's not going to inherit the title, then he can the prestige of his marriage is less important. But what is the reappearance of a younger son, which I think we can count on, going to solve? I'm not being very helpful. Sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, it doesn't have to solve anything. It may just add to the complications later on. It may do something. I mean, it's a good thing that Paulo is in love with a different woman to anyone we've met on stage, because so far we've only met his sisters. So I thankfully we're not going Star Wars Episode 4 on us or anything. Helen.
What really confused me, and I had to actually go back and look for it, was suddenly Paulo and the Count were in the same scene.
Mm.
So all the chaos of the previous scene and the running about and the searching upstairs and downstairs was resolved into, why, God be thanked, you're found at last. And that was it. He just wanted to know where he was. He didn't want him for anything.
No, he immediately turns to the other person and goes, hello, how are you? Sit down, have a cup of tea.
But I think that's quite endearing, that he's just about to lose him to the wars, but nevertheless, he can't bear to have him out of his sight for more than a minute.
Eric.
Yeah. Also, what I liked was, for yourself, madam, you are a most rare creature. I tell you so. Be not proud of it, but I love you. And then bye. It's sort of like that. It's almost childish, but not quite.
Yeah, and it's not desperately helpful because the script doesn't tell us which of the two sisters he's actually talking to, unless it was mentioned somewhere and I missed it. And I'm sure there'll be a note somewhere. But I don't know who he's talking to at that point. Rachael.
Maybe it's like is it 100 Years of Solitude, where the guy is the music teacher and he plays both sisters? Maybe it's one of those things. He could, I don't know. Maybe he's trying to see what sticks.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be more data later on, and I'm sure in performance, having read the rest of the play, you know who it is, and therefore you can design the scene for it to work that way. But it's an interesting little closing gambit, because of course it doesn't allow you any moment to actually anyone to respond to it, because he's off. Okay, let's go on to the next unit of action. We haven't got it marked in our script as a new scene, because it technically isn't, but you might want it to be marked as Scene 3 of Act 1, if you so wish. There's a sounding of a tucket, and they pass everyone. Everyone departs, apart from Paulo, Maximilian, and Angelo.
Oh.
Sorry, everyone takes a moment.
Sorry, I was on the wrong scene.
That's right.
How shall we rid him hence?
Why, well enough, sweet Signor Maximilian. I have some small occasion to stay. If it may please you, but take course afore, I'll overtake you ere your troops be ranged.
Maximilian changing hat.
Your motion doth taste well. Lord Freitas, I go.
Exit, thank goodness, Maximilian.
Now if my love, fair Rachael, we're so happy as to look forth.
And having mentioned the name Rachael, and I think it's possibly the first time we've heard the name Rachael, enter Rachael.
See, fortune doth me grace before I can demand. How now, love? Where is your father?
Gone abroad, my lord.
That's well.
Aye, but I fear he'll presently return. Are you now going, my most honored lord?
Aye, my sweet Rachael.
Before God, she is a sweet wench.
Rachael, I hope I shall not need to urge the sacred purity of our affects as if it hung in trial or suspense, since in our hearts and by our mutual vows it is confirmed and sealed in sight of heaven. They do not weep. Why stare you? Fear not, love. Your father cannot be returned so soon. I prithee do not look so heavily. Thou shalt want nothing.
No, is your presence nothing? I shall want that, and wanting that, want all, for that is all to me.
Content be, sweet. I have made choice here of a constant friend, this gentleman, on whose zealous love I do repose more than on all the world, thy beauteous self accepted, and to him have I committed my dear care of thee. As to my genius, or my other soul, receive him, gentle love, and what defects my absence proves, his presence shall supply. The time is envious of our longer stay. Farewell, dear Rachael.
Most dear Lord, adieu. Heaven and honor crown your deeds and you.
And exit Rachael.
Faith, tell me, Angelo, how dost thou like her?
Troth, well, my lord. But shall I speak my mind?
I prithee do.
She is derived too meanly to be wife to such a noble person, in my judgment.
Nay, then thy judgment is too mean, I fear. Didst thou ne'er read, in difference of good, 'tis more to shine in virtue than in blood?
Oh, come, you are so sententious, my lord.
And enter Jaques.
Here comes her father. How dost thou, good Jaques?
God save thee, Jaques.
What should this mean? Rachael, open the door.
Exit Jaques.
Splud! How the poor slave looks, as though he had been haunted by the spirit La, or seen the ghost of some great satrapas in an unsavoury sheet.
I muse he spake not. Belike he was amazed, coming so suddenly and unprepared. Well, let's go.
And they exeunt. And again, apologies for some of the randomness of the jubbling. It's just purely down to what happens when we have sudden dropouts last minute. Interesting things happen where Rachael gets to get a sense of what it's like to woo yourself. So we've met. There's a Rachael. Someone loves Rachael. Someone else from a distance seems to quite like Rachael, and trying to put off the other person from liking Rachael. So yeah, and then there's the father. Her father comes on and acts a bit weird. Everyone sort of comments he's acting a bit weird. Just sort of walks on and goes ah, and walks off again. Weirdness from Jaques. Thoughts in the room?
Do we have any idea who Jaques is? Is he a household servant in the Count's household, or
Her father? Rachel's father. That's all we got, I think.
Okay.
Helen.
I think we can assume that friend Jaques is not of the nobility. And a Farnese can look as high as he wishes for a wife. I mean, Angelo is absolutely spot on. She's a looker, yep, but she is not what the heir of the Farnese should be looking for in a wife. Angelo suddenly leaps into some sort of the ghost of a satrap in an unsavory sheet is rather nice. We're going back to other dramas, I think.
Yes.
I'm sure there will be ghosts of satraps who are assumed not to be in unsavory sheets, but knowing the theatre, perhaps the sheets had been somewhat overused.
Well, I think it's the point is his reaction as if he's seen some great theatrical effect has occurred. So it's maybe more about how he acts. Jaques reacts to as if like he's seen a ghost and gone no or something like that. That's how I read it. I could be wrong. Shall we? There seems to be some text for Jaques coming up, so maybe that's going to explicate some of the stuff that's just happened immediately after it happened. So maybe we're going to get some data. So just so that no one's confused, at this point, Rachael is going to be Jaques, not going to be Paulo, who's wooing Jaques' daughter. Just so everyone's clear. So, Act 2, Scene 1, enter Jaques solus.
So now enough, my heart beat now no more. At least for this affright, what a cold sweat flowed o'er my brows and over all my bosom. Had I not reason to behold my door beset with unthrifts, and myself abroad? Why, Jaques, was there nothing in the house worth a continual eye, a vigilant thought, whose head should never nod, nor eyes once wink? Look on my coat, my thoughts, worn quite threadbare, that time could never cover with a nap, and by it learn, never with naps of sleep, to smother your conceits of that you keep. But yet I marvel why these gallant youths spoke me so fair, and I esteemed a beggar. The end of flattery is gain or lechery. If they seek gain of me, they think me rich. But that they do not, for their other object, 'tis in my handsome daughter, if it be, and by your leave, her handsomeness may tell them my beggary counterfeits, and that her neatness flows from some store of wealth that breaks my coffers with this same engine, love to mine own breed. But this is answered, beggars will keep fine their daughters, being fair, though themselves pine. Well, then it is for her. Aye, 'tis sure for her, and I make her so brisk for one of them, that I might live alone once with my gold. Oh, 'tis a sweet companion, kind and true. A man may trust it when his father cheats him, brother, or wife, or friend. Oh, wondrous pelf! That which makes all men false is true itself. But now this maid is but supposed my daughter. For I, being steward to a lord of France of great estate and wealth, called Lord Chamon, he gone into the wars, I stole his treasure. But hear not anything, I stole his treasure, and this his daughter, being but 2 years old, because it loved me so, that it would leave the nurse herself to come into mine arms, and had I left it, it would sure have died. Now herein I was kind, and had a conscience, and since her lady mother, that did die, and childbed of her, loved me passing well, it may be nature fashioned this affection, both in the child and her, but he is ill-bred, that ransacks tombs, and doth deface the dead. I'll therefore say no more, suppose the rest. Here have I changed my form, my name and hers, and live obscurely, to enjoy more safe my dearest treasure. But I must abroad.
And enter Rachael.
Rachael!
What is your pleasure, sir?
Rachael, I must abroad. Lock thyself in, but yet take out the key, that whosoever peeps in at the keyhole may yet imagine there is none at home.
I will, sir.
But hark thee, Rachael, say a thief should come and miss the key, he would resolve indeed none were at home, and so break in the rather. Ope the door, Rachael. Set it open, daughter. But sit in it thyself and talk aloud, as if there were some more in house with thee. Put out the fire, kill the chimney's heart, that it may breathe no more than a dead man. The more we spare my child, the more we gain.
And exeunt. So, complicated backstory for Jaques and his daughter here. His daughter. I think we should do that. Bit paranoid. Someone's just popped into the chat. Yes, I think it's fair to say anyone who, when they leave the house, says, right, lock everything up and pretend that there's lots of people in with you. I mean, this is positively the a Sherlock Holmes story of, that they'll have some dummies in front of the window moving back and forth. You have to wheel around to make it look like there are more people there or something. Yeah, interesting. Beginning of Act 2, we're going straight into all this other. It's like suddenly it's like we're having plot thrown at us from a great height. All this opening gambits of character stuff, and then suddenly plot. Late onset plot. Thoughts in the room, Rachael?
I think this is a cheap burglar alarm for him, because I know people who don't have like a thing, and they leave the TV on and they leave like lights on to make it seem like people are home when they go on vacation. And it seems like that's his solution to that. And not even an actual lock, so it's just so over the top, like ridiculous.
Yeah. Yes, it's like having timers for lamps and things, so they come on and off and stuff like that. Yeah. Other thoughts, Lynn?
Yeah, this is really weird and strikes me as maybe a little unnecessarily complicated. I mean, it's one thing that I used to work for this wealthy nobleman. I stole all his money and I kidnapped his daughter because she was crazy about me, and I was afraid because she was motherless, that she was so attached to me. I took her with me, but her mom was pretty fond of me, so maybe there's a natural thing going on. So I mean, it's not enough that this is actually a nobleman's daughter, so maybe things will work out in the end. But maybe she's his natural daughter. It's like, why throw that in there? I don't know. It's a bit much. It's a bit much.
I quite like its bit muchness.
Okay.
I think it is nicely extra in that sense of, it's like there's no real logic. It's like the logic of this guy of going, well, the baby never wanted to let go of me. It always wanted to hold me. Therefore, it was the baby who decided. That's what it was. It wasn't me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And I suppose it doesn't really matter, legally speaking, if Jaques had an affair with his employer's wife, because in England anyway, children born after a marriage was solemnized were the legal children of the husband, whether they were the natural children of the husband or not. That's my understanding. So she's legally the nobleman's daughter, whether she's naturally Jaques' daughter or not.
And it may be just a red herring. Who knows? Other thoughts?
Jonson? Red herring? How can you say that?
This play's throwing interesting curveballs even before we've even detected what the curve was. And it's like, establish what the plot is before you throw a curveball into it. Helen?
Yeah, it's the. I've just got a question about the bingo game. Alan says I can't have a second win with another stolen child or disappeared child. You can only count one per play. Can we have a ruling on this?
Well, it will depend if your bingo card has got second, the second child. Otherwise, you've already stamped that square. So it will depend on the configuration of your bingo card, because they won't always be the same, obviously, because that would
I'm afraid
everyone would win.
I've only got one square for a missing infant.
So we've got to remember for next time, we've got to add, second missing infant as part of the bingo card. I think that's an important demarcation for anyone playing the game. Sarah?
I'm confused. Who was the first stolen child?
It's the 19 years ago.
He lost Camilla.
Junior heir.
Oh, but okay, right. So, but the Count thinks he's dead. So theoretically, he's dead at this point.
Well, it's true. He may not turn up, and there may not be a lost child. But
I wouldn't take bets.
But
Just-
I'm just going with Chekhov's baby here.
I'm just saying though, like if we were actually to read this play like for the first time, theoretically, Camillo, we've been told he's dead by his father. And
Missing
there is
in
some
action.
some ambiguity there, but yes.
And also remember, the first child that's gone missing was the night wherein the great Chamont, who we've just had mentioned here as well. So there's an interesting series of interconnected indigenous things going on between these two babies. I'm not suggesting that's going to be significant either. I don't know. I've not read a play before. Eric.
I haven't read a play before either. I was gonna say that this whole like missing child thing reminds me of Misogynist, where you have like the really terrible son is just sort of the one that has been has been lauded like as an heir and stuff, and then the good one is lost until much later in the plot. Yeah, it just just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Though I suspect the precedents for this plot go back a little earlier than that. But I could be wrong on that point. Helen.
In fact, it's not handled too badly. I mean, it's not one of those plays where two people who already know the plot come on and quite unnecessarily to them tell each other the plot. I mean, these things are coming out of a fairly natural series of conversations, except for friend Jaques, who's Jaques, whatever, who is taking the audience into his confidence. But the rest, they're coming out in a fairly logical way.
Yeah, I think it's not so much that we have these plot elements coming in or that they're badly handled. It's more that the opening of the play didn't feel like it was leading us to this. It felt like that we've got slightly different materials in the mix, and they're not quite flowing into each other in a way one would wish. I mean, I'm not enjoying it. I have to be said. I mean, I'm enjoying this. It's just on a standing over it, looking at it kind of way of just going, this is a little untidy. Helen,
how old do you think Onion is?
I have no idea how old Onion is.
He might be 19 then.
He could be 19. You have high hopes for Onion, do you?
No, not really.
What kind of stew do you think he's going to get himself into?
Because noble people, even when they have been brought up ignobly, always exhibit noble characteristics.
Absolutely.
It's all about narrativium.
Yeah, I suspect a lion would eat Onion. I think that would happen. Yeah. Anyway, we shall move on to scene 2. And we have, just double check that everything's fine doubling wise. Yes, Act 2, Scene 2, enter Christophero, Juniper and Onion, our favourite trio.
What says my fellow Onion? Come on.
All of a house, sir, but not fellows. You are my Lord Steward. But I pray you, what think you of love, sir?
Of love, Onion? Why, it's a very honourable humour.
Nay, if it be but worshipful, I care not.
Go to, it's honourable. Check not the conceit of the gentleman.
But in truth, sir, you shall do well to think well of love, for it thinks well of you in me, I assure you.
Gramercy, fellow Onion, I do think well. Thou art in love, art thou?
Partly, sir, but I'm ashamed to say wholly.
Well, I will further it indeed to any honest woman or maiden the best I can.
Why, now you come near him. Sir, he doth veil, he doth remunerate, he doth chew the cud in the kindness of an honest imperfection to your worship.
Who is't thou loves, fellow Onion?
Marry, a poor man's daughter, but none of the honestest, I hope.
Why, wouldst thou not have her honest?
Oh, no, for then I'm sure she would not have me. 'Tis Rachael Dupree.
Why, she hath the name of a very virtuous maiden.
So she is, sir, but the fellow talks in quiddities, he.
What wouldst thou have me do in the matter?
Oh, do nothing, sir, I pray you, but speak for me.
In what manner?
My fellow Juniper can tell you, sir.
Why, as thus, sir, your worship may commend him for a fellow fit for consanguinity, and that he shaketh with desire of procreation, nor so.
That were not so good, methinks.
No, sir. Why so, sir? What if you should say to her, corroborate thyself, sweet soul, let me distinguish thy paps with my fingers, divine mumps, pretty pastorella. Lookest thou so sweet and bounteous? Comfort my friend here.
Well, I perceive you wish I should say something may do him grace, and further his desires, and that be sure I will.
I thank you, sir. God save your life, I pray God, sir.
Your worship is too good to live long. You will contaminate me no service.
Command, thou wouldst say. No, good Juniper.
Health and wealth, sir.
Exeunt onion and juniper.
This wench will I solicit for myself, making my lord and master privy to it. And if he second me with his consent, I will proceed, as having long ere this thought to make a worthy choice to make my wife.
And exeunt Christophero. Do you get the impression that everyone quite likes Rachael?
Quite the honeypot.
Yeah, everyone's quite keen. They're shaking with desire of procreation. As indeed do we all. It's it's another excuse for Juniper to go off on one in weird and florid ways, whereas otherwise the scene is basically a straightforward, I quite fancy someone, so do I. This may have an important plot function later on. Let's put some other stuff in. Alan.
The more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking Juniper is a lineal ancestor of Mrs. Malaprop. Because he has some interesting usages of the English language.
Well, I say in his case, I think it's because he doesn't care what the words mean. He just likes the sounds of words. He said it earlier. You know, it's you. It doesn't matter what they mean. It's just how well they sound. He just likes the sound of them.
When I make a word mean two things, I pay it extra.
Other thoughts on this particular little scenette? Anyone hopeful for a lost son yet? Any other bids? We've had an onion bid. Anyone else want to suggest there might be a lost son of someone? I don't know. I genuinely have no idea. I'm just anyone fancying any of these as a lost son? Juniper, wouldn't that be a great lost son?
He's more than 19. I reckon.
Okay, let's go into the next scene then. And yes, it's our last of the session, reasonably chunky one. I'm reading Phoenixella because I don't know if I can make the doubling work. Otherwise, I don't think I can. Anyway, Act 2, Scene 3, enter Aurelia and Phoenixella.
Room for a case of matrons coloured black. How motherly my mother's death hath made us. I wish I had some girls now to bring up. Oh, I could make a wench so virtuous she should say grace to every bit of meat, and gape no wider than a wafer's thickness. And she should make French curtsies so most low that every touch should turn her over backward.
Sister, these words become not your attire, nor your estate. Our virtuous mother's death should print more deep effects of sorrow in us than may be borne out in so little time.
Sister, i' faith you take too much tobacco. It makes you black within, as ye are without. What true stitch, sister, both your sides alike? Be of a slighter work. For of my word you shall be sold as dear, or rather dearer. Will you be bound to customs and to rites, shed profitable tears, weep for advantage, or else do all things as you are inclined? Eat when your stomach serves, saith the physician, not at 11 and 6. So, If your humour be now affected with this heaviness, give it the reins, and spare not, as I do in this my pleasurable appetite. It is Precisianism to alter that with austere judgment that is given by nature. I wept, you saw too, when my mother died, for then I found it easier to do so, and fitter with my mode, than not to weep. But now 'tis otherwise. Another time, perhaps, I shall have such deep thoughts of her that I shall weep afresh some 12 months hence. And I will weep, if I be so disposed, and put on black as grimly then as now. Let the mind go still with the body's stature. Judgment is fit for judges. Give me nature.
Enter Francisco and Angelo.
See, Signor Angelo, here are the ladies. Go you and comfort one, I'll to the other.
Therefore I come, sir. I'll to the eldest. God save you, ladies. These sad modes of yours that make you choose these solitary walks are hurtful for your beauties.
If we had them.
Come, that condition might be for your hearts when you protest faith, since we cannot see them. But this same heart of beauty, your sweet face, is in mine eye still.
Oh, you cut my heart with your sharp eye.
Nay, lady, that is not so. Your heart's too hard.
My beauty's heart?
Oh, no, I mean that regent of affection, madam, that tramples on all love with such contempt in this fair breast.
No more. Your drift is savoured. I had rather seem hard-hearted.
Then hard-favoured. Is that your meaning, lady?
Go to, sir. Your wits are fresh, I know. They need no spur.
And therefore you will ride them?
Say I do. They will not tire, I hope.
No, not with you. Hark you, sweet lady.
'Tis much pity, madam, you should have any reason to retain this sign of grief, much less the thing designed.
Griefs are more fit for ladies than their pleasures.
Oh, that is for such as follow not but pleasures. But you that temper them so well with virtues, using your griefs so, it would prove them pleasures, and you would seem, in cause of grief and pleasures, equally pleasant.
Sir, so I do now. It is the excess of either that I strive so much to shun in all my proved endeavours, although, perhaps, unto a general eye, I may appear most wedded to my griefs. Yet doth my mind forsake no taste of pleasure, I mean that happy pleasure of the soul, divine and sacred contemplation of that eternal and most glorious bliss, proposed as the crown unto our souls.
I will be silent, yet that I may serve but as a decade in the art of memory, to put you still in mind of your own virtues, when your too serious thoughts make you too sad. Accept me for your servant, honored lady.
Those ceremonies are too common, Signor Francis, for your uncommon gravity and judgment, and fits them only that are naught but ceremony.
Come, I will not sue stalely to be your servant, but a new term. Will you be my refuge?
Your refuge? Why, sir?
That I might fly to you when all else fail me.
Can you be good at flying? Be my plover.
Nay, take away the P.
Then you cannot fly.
I'll warrant you. I'll borrow Cupid's wings.
Mas, then I fear me you will do strange things. I pray you blame me not, if I suspect you. Your own confession simply doth detect you, nay, and you be so great in Cupid's books, 'twill make me jealous. You can with your looks, I'll warrant you, enflame a woman's heart, and at your pleasure take a love's golden dart, and wound the breast of any virtuous maiden. Would I were hence, good faith. I am afraid you can constrain one, ere they be aware, to run mad for your love.
Oh, this is rare.
And at this point, Aurelia luckily doesn't say anything else, because here, enter Count Farnese.
Close with my daughters, gentlemen. Well done, 'tis like yourselves. Nay, lusty Angelo, let not my presence make you balk your sport. I will not break a minute of discourse twixt you and one of your fair mistresses.
One of my mistresses? Why, thinks your lordship I have so many?
Many? No, Angelo, I do not think thus many. Some 14, I hear thou hast, even of our worthiest dames of any note in Milan.
Nay, good my lord, 14. It is not so.
By the mass that is't. There are their names to show, 14 or 15 to 1. Good Angelo, you need not be ashamed of any of them. They are gallants all.
Sblood, you are such a lord.
Nay, stay, sweet Angelo. I am disposed a little to be pleasant past my custom.
Exit Angelo.
He's gone. He's gone. I have disgraced him shrewdly. Daughters, take heed of him. He's a wild youth. Look what he says to you. Believe him not. He will swear love to everyone he sees. Francisco, give them counsel, good Francisco. I dare trust thee with both, but him with neither.
Your lordship yet may trust both them with him.
Well, go your ways. Away!
And everyone exits, apart from the Count and Christophero.
How now, Christophero? What news with you?
I have an humble suit to your good lordship.
A suit, Christophero? What suit, I prithee?
I would crave pardon at your lordship's hands, if it seemed vain or simple in your sight.
I'll pardon all simplicity, Christophero. What is thy suit?
Perhaps, being now so old a bachelor, I shall seem half unwise to bend myself in strict affection to a poor young maid.
What? Is it touching love, Christophero? Art thou disposed to marry? Why, 'tis well.
Aye, but your lordship may imagine now that I, being steward of your honour's house, if I be married once, will more regard the maintenance of my wife and of my charge than the due discharge of my place and office.
No, no, Christophero, I know thee honest.
Good faith, my lord, your honour may suspect it, but...
Then I should wrong thee. Thou hast ever been honest and true, and will be still, I know.
Aye, but this marriage alters many men, and you may fear it will do me, my lord. But ere it do so, I will undergo 10,000 several deaths.
I know it, man. Who wouldst thou have, I prithee?
Rachael Dupree, if your good lordship grant me your consent.
Rachael Dupree? What, the poor beggar's daughter? She's a right handsome maid, how poor soever, and thou hast my consent with all my heart.
I humbly thank your honour. I'll now ask her father.
Do so, Christophero. Thou shalt do well.
And exit Christophero.
'Tis strange, she being so poor, he should affect her. But this is more strange, that myself should love her. I spied her lately at her father's door, and if I did not see in her sweet face gentry and nobleness, ne'er trust me more. But this persuasion fancy wrought in me, that fancy being created with her looks. For where love is, he thinks his basest object gentle and noble. I am far in love, and shall be forced to wrong my honest steward, or I must sue and seek her for myself. How much my duty to my late dead wife and to my own dear renown, soe'er it sways. I'll to her father straight. Love hates delays.
Exit Count. Everybody loves Rachael. Almost literally everyone. And, you know, it's interesting. A few years down the line, Marston is going to write a slightly satirical thing on a very similar plot thread, and I'm just wondering whether, out of deliberate looking at a text like this, I'm just wondering. It's just a thought. A play we've already read, but is in the future. There's a connection there. I do like the way the Count gets rid of Angelo, though. You know. No, you haven't had many lovers. No, I've only counted 14.
Or was it 50?
14, 50. I've got it written down on a bit of paper somewhere. Hang on. Yeah, he does that masterfully, it has to be said. Yes, and obviously we, as modern people, do frown upon this intention from the Count. But he's only been widowed 3 months, and yeah, and we don't know where the play's going yet. Though we may. Thoughts from the room? I have to defend the Count, by the way. It's my job.
Is it? Okay.
Other opinions may vary. I set them up for you to knock them down. Helen.
No, it's perfectly proper for him to take a second wife. He needs a mistress for the household. The proper unit of work, of production, of rule, everything was two. One ran the household, the other ran the affairs, the business side of it. And remarriage after death. I mean, there was an enormous amount of serial monogamy going on. It wasn't only Henry VIII. And also, of course, he's only got one son. So there are those who would say it was absolutely his duty to take a woman capable of giving him another son, because you've got to have an heir and a spare at a minimum.
Eric.
I was going to say, now I know what sort of framing device you can use for this. This is basically Hello Dolly, but like early modern.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and this is a sort of serial wooing scene that we've just had. We've had the two chaps come on, and Aurelia and Phoenixella are sort of talking about demonstrative grieving techniques, and then you get Francisco and Angelo come on saying, well, let's do some wooing. You go to one side with yours, and I'll go to one side with mine, and we'll do some wooing at each other, and we'll see how that goes. And they do some wooing-y business, which the Count somewhat undermines by his entrance there. Any thoughts on the wooing? Anyone convinced? I mean, we've had some great chat-up lines, but they mostly came from Juniper earlier, so possibly not in the running. Thoughts, Lynn?
Yeah, you could definitely play those interchanges a number of ways. Are the women, doing the classic play hard to get in order to get your man, or are they really not especially interested? I mean, the text doesn't really tell you.
Yeah. We haven't sort of had any kind of aside to the audience or anything from anyone. So from the ladies anyway. So we don't really know what they're and they are in mourning. So there is this question of propriety as well in this context. Rachael, then Alan.
No, I was just going to ask for how the Count is marrying. Helen just said that there was a sort of expectation that he should get remarried. But for women, like I'm thinking of Queen Victoria, who was in an extended mourning period that went far beyond what social convention was. But at this time, what was social convention for a mourning period for a woman, and what like if anybody knows that and were they even allowed to have suitors or marry during that mourning period if they wanted to?
It's a good question. I don't know how fixed such concepts were at the time. Helen may know.
From what I've seen practically, and I'm not talking about the upper echelons, which I know nothing about. If you look at parish registers, there's a marriage, and maybe 7 months later, I don't know, there's a birth of a child. Then the child dies, then the mother dies, all within a week. It's usually childbed fever. And then about a month later, the husband remarries. And this was a fairly reasonable pattern. And therefore, one must assume that it was socially more or less acceptable or expected. I mean, nobody could accuse Queen Victoria of having failed spare heirs. I mean, the poor woman had so many pregnancies. She used to hate them.
Yes, really resented them. Alan?
Yeah, I mean, going on to the people coping with more, Aurelia is obviously desperate to get out of that scenario, which I think is a part explanation for some of the tone in her speech, because, I mean, she's come across as the strongest of the female characters so far. You know, and it is obviously gagging to get back to, quotes, normal life.
Right, we are into extra time, so it is time for some final thoughts around the room. We're a third of the way through the play. The play is moving apace. I think we've now established a plot. I think we know where we are. We've got to establish some characters. We've had some, or I've had certainly articulated some criticism of the overall shape of things, but actually I think it's all fairly... I've enjoyed the things, even if I felt they weren't quite in the right place. And I feel that dramaturgically that's all tidyable. I'm so far I'm enjoying this. If not necessarily first among equals, it's definitely doing some really interesting stuff. Final thoughts in the room. Eric, any final thoughts?
I'm enjoying this. It's just like sort of trying to work out what the plot is kind of like having a piece of red string and then sort of trying to put it up, and then it just ends up collapsing and the cat sort of scratches at it and makes a ball of yarn and stuff. Yeah, I'm a bit lost sort of plot wise, but I don't know if that's important, because, you know, if we focus on the plot, then it just mars the comedy.
Well, I think so. The plot has now resolved itself. It's actually very simple. Everybody loves Rachael, and Rachael is somebody's long lost daughter. That's actually it. Everything else is just noise. And knowing that, it makes it a lot easier now going forward. And that, knowing it from a production point of view, it's a question of actually how the audience experience this journey. But now we know it. It makes our lives a lot easier. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, my response is similar to Eric's, that the comedy on sort of the more local level is really charming and can be really entertaining, and the characterization I think could be really funny in the way Juniper talks, and the grouchiness, the sort of over the top grouchiness of the Count. But I am concerned that as an audience member who has to take this in at pace rather than a reading experience like we're having, where we have time to be like, okay, who's whose sister and who's boyfriend and so forth. I wonder if that the critical information would just like whoosh past the audience, and it would be a more frustrating experience for them than entertaining. I think it's a concern.
I mean, it's a question about costuming and the physicality of it all as well. I mean, we'd be able to discern who are servants and who are people, and familial relationships as well, much clearer, because it's like the daughters don't say anything when they first appear. They're on stage for quite a while, so we would at least identify who they are. But I think it's absolutely right that we need to be really flagging these things up, because it's the initial 15 minutes of a show like this are the hardest, because you need to get the audience on side with the language as well as what's going on, and if one isn't quite doing the job, then it's hard to play catch up. It's hard to play catch up if it's not immediately clear. Rachael, any final thoughts?
I don't know. All I've taken from this is that they're all in love. Paulo's married her. Somebody's probably gone off. That other Duke will probably show up. Is it another Duke? Who is Chamon? Chamon might show up in the future, maybe, or that other son's going to show up in the future. Who knows?
May indeed happen. May indeed happen.
Yeah.
Might not. Might not. Could be a massive red herring. Could, could be we think it's going one way, goes somewhere else. I don't know. I have no idea. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, the first act was basically a series of almost comedy sketches or sketches with comedic elements. We didn't really get any serious plot until Act 2. And that really hasn't developed far enough yet for me to make a judgment on it. But there's been some very entertaining bits so far. And I think some of the uncertainties that Lynn was referring to would probably be sorted out if one was talking about a proper costume performance by signifiers in costume or whatever that would make it clearer to the audience.
Helen, any final thoughts?
I like this play. I know one or two other Jonsons, and this is great. But there's nothing here so far that we haven't seen before. I mean, maybe we're becoming a bit jaded. Perhaps we ought to take a couple of years off. I don't know. But there's not that much that's new here, but I do like the way it's put together.
Well, yes. I mean, the basic plot constituents are about 2,000 years old. I mean, when we're saying it's not new, we're not even talking early modern here. We're talking we're talking new comedy from a fair old way away. And also some of the influences we may be seeing are or things we're seeing that seem familiar are things that haven't happened yet in terms of the timeline. It may be that things are they're actually later plays that we may have looked at that are doing similar things to this, but in a slightly different way. That's why we need to turn over more new members. You know, if you want to join us, by the way, and you want to, it's all free. You can just join us. There's a sign-up sheet in the website. Anyone can join us. So there's no rules. We don't do interviews or anything. Just come in. It's fine. Be that non-jaded person who's no idea what's going on and can't even say if it seems familiar, because we need more of people like that. These people, they're all so cynical now. I should just get rid of all these people and get just new people.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years for some of us. We're trapped in this little box now. I'm joking, by the way, everyone. Just clear. Just make it clear. I am joking. I am honest. Apart from you can sign up and join it. Yeah, that bit I wasn't joking about. Anyway, Sarah, pass me a ladder. I've dug quite a deep hole for myself.
No, you just keep going. I'll stay behind and mop up the pieces that are left. Well, I'm really enjoying it. Fast, funny, furiously complicated in a way that it doesn't need to be, but it does because it's Jonson and he does character. He just writes such brilliant characters. They zing off the page. He writes such brilliant male characters. They zing off the page. Aurelia does have a certain kind of characterization to her, but I will eat my hat if it gets developed. What I would really love to see in this play is a big chunky soliloquy from Rachael, finding out exactly what she thinks of all these different men, whether she loves any of them, whether she wishes they'd just all go away, or whether actually, her heart is already bespoke to someone. I have no idea. I am guessing again that we won't get one of those, which is a shame. But hey, I could be pleasantly surprised. But I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of hilarious. love the Count's characterization. I love all the servants' characterization. It's very, very entertaining, and I'm looking forward to part 2.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Ben Jonson, not necessarily going to give us the some of the characters we want, but it will give us other characters who we definitely will. So let's see where that goes. But I suspect let's just take what we can and just move on. Yes. So we have reached the end of this first session. We're finishing slightly early. On a Ben Jonson. This cliche that Jonson, it goes on. They're always they overwrite. All that stuff. It's not always true. Sometimes they're fine. So, without further ado, all that remains to thank all these wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and I will say farewell with a chat-up line that I'm sure we'll all want to emulate. Corroborate thyself, sweet soul. Let me distinguish thy paps with my fingers, divine mumps. Yeah, bet that'll work on a Saturday night.